Ladies and gentlemen, I am Richard. This is my channel, and I'm going to drink some Mountain Dew. I poured the Mountain Dew before I started the video because the ice is frozen to the bottom of the glass, and I want it to rise. Anyway, for 1,000 subscribers, I gotta purchase one of these bracelets from 4Ocean. 4Ocean pulls a ton of trash out of the ocean every time I do that. Now we're going to talk about anticipation. Come on, ice. For those of you who don't know, I'm something of a food blogger. It's my hobby. So I purchased Mountain Dew because I hadn't tried it. I hadn't tasted Mountain Dew in so long. Not regular Mountain Dew anyway. That I had to compare it to all the other flavors of Mountain Dew. I realized I had never actually written a blog post about Mountain Dew. So here we are. Now, anticipation is a funny thing. There was once a study where they got a bunch of college students together. And they were like, you're going to go on a trip after finals. It's going to cost you so much. You decide whether you want to go or not at any time, but you think you're going to fail your final. And a whole bunch of them were like, well, I want to find out if I fail my final before I go on my trip. And it's like, what happens if you fail your final? Well, I go on my trip. What happens if you pass your final? Well, I go on my trip. People are like that. Anticipation makes us unwilling to make decisions. So we as people have that tendency to just go out there and say, no, I'm not going to do some. I'm out of. Let me grab a 0-calorie something or other. Zevia mixed with the dregs of my Mountain Dew. So we as humans have this thing. It's like if we have a situation that we're unsure of, we don't like making decisions. And that's why one of the things that happens with us as human beings is we wind up with a weaker economy. People are unwilling to spend money because they don't know what's going to happen. Even if it's money they were going to spend, regardless of what's going to happen. I also need to switch my watch bands out. These rubbery bands give me something of a rash. I don't know what I did with the mesh band, but, you know, it's just one of those things. We as human beings are obsessed with the idea of telling the future. I once saw a show that said that the first calendar was a wand that you wrapped a rope around. And through wrapping the rope, you wrapped the rope every time the moon was full, so this gave you the ability to count the months of the year. And because our world functions in a cycle, this gave you something of an ability to anticipate what was going to happen. So it was sort of like seeing the future, particularly to primitive people. I mean, you know, if you were to take my watch to somebody 200 years ago, they might think it was magic because it's not an analog watch. You know, it lights up, does all kinds of cool things. That's our world today. mean, there was a time when a 4-function calculator was more than $100, and $100 was like $1,000 at the time because of inflation. Remember, when you could buy a calculator for $100, you could buy a house for $15,000. Okay? Money was worth a lot more at the time. So, technology and how it's just built upon itself, it's things that would cost millions of dollars, a few years ago, or a couple hundred years ago. It's like, just think about, I have a laptop here, okay? And this thing, something fell. And this thing is going out. It's not very useful anymore. And trying to figure out what really to do with it. Don't even know if I know where the power supply is. That's why I haven't turned it on in a bit. But you have to understand that this laptop, okay, has more power than something like, 100 of my first computers. Which was the first computer I had was a 66 gigahertz processor. I think this is a dual core 1.2. So it's just so much ridiculously more powerful than anything else I've seen. And it's like, or anything else I would have had at the time. And it being so light, it being so small, this thing probably, if we had found this back in the day, if I could go back to when I bought my first computer, which was in 95, and I had this thing, somebody would probably tell the military, and they'd come and confiscate it for reasons of national security, and then pick this thing apart to build a supercomputer, because there were computers the size of rooms that didn't have this power. It's just crazy. Now I've gotten off topic because we were talking about anticipation. Yeah, I'm anticipating some things that, it's made me stop working. And I haven't gotten any work done for the last 4 hours. I stopped rendering on my other computers. And, I just had to take a moment and brighten myself, be like, what are you doing, dingus? There's no amount of waiting. It's like, yes, you might not know tomorrow, you might not know in a week, and meanwhile, you need to get work done. I don't know. One of those things about myself is I keep thinking there's going to be this. Well, I keep fantasizing there's going to be this moment that I wake up and suddenly I'm just totally motivated, and I'm just a force of nature constantly moving forward. But yeah, what's the chance of that happening? Anyway, thank you for sharing this moment with me. I'm Richard. Hey, Astro, did you hear about the restaurant on the moon? Yeah, Nance, I heard the food was good, but it had no atmosphere. Now that was a corny joke, but you know what isn't a joke? A clean environment. And this channel will buy one of these bracelets I'm holding from 4Ocean for every 1,000 subscribers it gets. So you should comment, like, and subscribe. Support us so we can support a better world.